open house attendees. My name is Brittany Pearl, and I'm here with Pete Walsh, the game designer and product manager behind the IDW Adventures Universal Game System. Hey, Pete. How are you doing?
Hey, not bad, Brittany. How are you?
Good. So we wanted to get started on our OGS discussion today with the core mechanics. So the OGS system has a really great dice sharing mechanic. Do you want to talk about that a bit?
Yeah, for sure. So the OGS system, it's the Adventures Universal Game System, just so everybody knows what OGS means. It's the dice sharing is the sort of the beating heart of the system. It's everybody has 3 action dice, and we share them to our left and our right. So even though we start off with 3, we end up with 5 because our players to the left and the right also we share them back and forth. It induces like collaboration between the players around the table, working out what's the best way to tackle a certain situation. Maybe you need more movement or defense, whatever it may be. But it's that the constant collaboration between the players and sharing dice.
So that makes it sound like it's a cooperative game, but there are also several other game modes, right?
Yeah, for sure. So you can play it competitively, cooperatively, and some people like to even play in a skirmish mode where they go head-to-head against each other.
All right, so now that we've covered the absolute basics, we've got a lot more to talk about with specific fandoms. Why don't we talk a little bit about the history of the system? So we started out with Shadows of the Past, right?
Correct. So Kevin Wilson was the original designer of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Shadows of the Past. That it was a competitive only, so it only had the 4 versus 1 mechanic in it. And it was a fantastic game. The Dice Tower reviewed it very well. I think it was one of Tom's favorite games, competitive games for the year. One thing about Shadows of the Past was, even though the gameplay and everything was excellent, there were some areas where we could have still improved. The miniature scale wasn't exactly right, and some of the graphical elements could definitely have been elevated. When we got a chance to go back and do Changes Constant and Cityfall, we really wanted to go gangbusters and try and make it the most we could. We made sure the scale was as perfect as we could, and we sprinkled Easter eggs throughout all of the tiles and the rule books, and really tried to put a big emphasis on making sure when you played the game, you felt like you were in that universe. Like you felt like you were opening a Turtles comic book and you were part of the story.
Definitely. I think you've really accomplished that based on the community response, because right now you have thousands of members in your Facebook group who are all more creative than I could even imagine, with like their home brewing, the paint jobs. Do you want to show off some of the community takes on your
Yeah,
sculpts?
for sure. Yep, I can share my screen, and I've got a couple lined up. Won't be a sec. So there's got one there, and there's some other little goodies there which we can share a little bit later.
We've really enjoyed sharing these on social media. We do a weekly community spotlight, and people love to see their work shared on all the main pages.
Yeah, for sure. I really enjoy seeing how everybody brings their own different little bit of spice to their design. Some people like to do the cell shaded comics style, while others like to put a lot of shading, like heavy dark tones, and it really makes the game go from just a miniatures game to somebody's personal version of the stories that they're trying to play.
So Cityfall and Changes Constant came along at a really great time with the 30th anniversary of the first TMNT film, the revived popularity of the whole fandom, but the actual storyline follows the IDW comics, right?
Correct. So it follows the IDW comic book series, which has just hit 100 recently. It's very, very popular. It's an amazing story. It really takes the best parts of all the other Turtles fandoms, from the original comic by Kevin and Peter to the 80s cartoon, all the way through to the movies everywhere. They cherry pick the best parts and sort of jam it all together and make an amazing story. And that's where we've pulled our battles and our scenarios from.
So with City Fall and Changes Constant, this isn't a game and an expansion. It's two separate core boxes, right?
Yeah, correct. So
what's the difference?
Oh, cool. Yeah. So both games have 5 heroes. So you play with 4 heroes. So the 5th one means that you can have some variance in there. But City Fall really focuses on the bad guys, and Changes Constant focuses on the good guys. I know that sounds a bit strange because you'd sort of want both, but in Changes Constant, it tells the origin story of the new IDW Comics origin story where Raphael is separated from his brothers at the start. You don't really see the Shredder and the Foot Clan come up for a little while through that story. So they're focused more on in City Fall. And City Fall is sort of a really crazy, wild roller coaster ride. It's Leonardo gets brainwashed by the Foot Clan, and he essentially gets kidnapped and becomes the Tunin, or the second in command of the Foot, and the brothers and Splinter have to try and save him. So we add in a whole bunch of new characters that people can play in City Fall, and then if you own both, you can mix and match. But yeah, you go on 2 different boxes, 2 different journeys, but the Changes Constant deals more with the origins of the Turtles, while City Fall is the rise of the Foot Clan and all the craziness that happens there.
And that brings up a great point about the cross-compatibility. So anything after Shadows of the Past, right? Any OGS game are just 100% cross-compatible, so they can mix together everything. That's the plan. So we're aiming to have always everything just be like a giant toy box where you can pick and choose what you would like. You want to take a hero out of the Batman game and put it into Turtles, you can do that. You can take a villain from one game and place it into another. It shouldn't be a problem either. And at PAX East, our last opportunity for in-person play this year, we had a ton of fun all weekend running demos, and you can just swap in any hero, any villain, and it just ran completely smooth. Before we move on to Batman, if you are interested in more information on City Falls Changes Constant, Dicebreaker, Tantrum House, Man vs. Meeple, Victory Condition Gaming, and comicbook.com all have excellent coverage, both video and written. And both games are available now for order. So with Batman, we actually have a snazzy little introduction video. Do you want to screen that for folks, Pete?
Yeah, for sure.
When the streets of Gotham City run rampant with crime, there's only one person that can save them. You. Batman, the animated series Adventures, Shadow of the Bat, is the next entry in the Adventures Universal Game System product line from IDW Games, and is compatible with other products in the Adventures Universal Game System. In Shadow of the Bat, you and up to 3 of your friends will fight to save Gotham City as Batman, Robin, Batgirl, and Commissioner Gordon. Or even make an uneasy alliance with Catwoman. As with other games in the Adventures Universal Game System, heroes roll their dice to generate the actions they'll take on their turn, and then strategize which actions to share with their allies. And in Shadow of the Bat, working together is going to be key. Heroes won't be able to rely on brute strength alone, as each mission will have multiple threats to deal with. A fire inside the bank vault is slowly consuming the valuables inside. Someone will need to get the fire extinguisher over to the vault to stop the blaze. Scarecrow is using fear toxin to turn the bystanders against Batman. Scarecrow's enforcers are taking bystanders hostage. Luckily, Batman and his allies are highly trained, each with their own special combat abilities, such as Commissioner Gordon's ability to command the GCPD. And new to Batman the Animated Series Adventures, Gadget Cards. Batman, the Animated Series Adventures Shadow of the Bat contains 8 campaigns, each based on a fan-favorite episode and totaling 20 missions, as well as 4 plug-and-play arcade battles that allow you to swap in different villains.
I know, the video always makes me think that the actual batarangs are going to start shooting out of the miniatures. So one thing that the video doesn't really address is Arkham Asylum, which is not a core box like City Fallen Changes Constant, but is a substantial expansion. And the Rogues Gallery for Batman is so iconic to the series. So can you talk a bit about what it includes, what content it adds?
Yeah, for sure. So Arkham Asylum is a really cool expansion. We wanted to add a lot more of the Rogues Gallery to the game, and the best way we thought to do that was through the Arkham Asylum expansion. The other really cool thing that adds is a special mode called Clayface mode, which is where it's essentially a trader. You play in your cooperative mode, and then at the start of the battle you deal out a trader card to everybody. So you could be a hero or you could be Clayface, and because there's 5 cards and you play with 4 people, there's still a chance that everybody could be a hero, but it just adds a little bit of mystery, and maybe they are really a trader but maybe they're not. And then you get all the way to the end and then you're all good, and then everybody shakes their fist because they thought that somebody was bad. The cool thing with the Clayface mode as well, you can use Clayface as a regular hero too, if you wanted to substitute him for, say, Batman in your normal game. There's a hero sheet in there to do that as well.
That's really cool. I'm sure a lot of people love the role reversal, playing as the villains. So who are some of the characters included in Arkham Asylum?
In Arkham Asylum, there is Clayface, Poison Ivy, and her plants. There is the Mad Hatter, who has some mind control techniques. There is Maxie Zeus. There is Baby Doll. There is Killer Croc. And there's a whole bunch more. The 2 hyenas, Bud and Lou, Harley's hyenas. Clock King is in there. Clock King's got a really fantastic ability as well, especially in cooperative, where when you start the battle, or start the round, you always share your action dice, and you spend some time and you work out what's the best play. When Clock King's active in the battle, you only get 30 seconds to do that. So wow. It really makes it tricky. And then if you're playing with him in competitive mode, he actually chooses which hero takes their turn instead of the heroes choosing who takes their turn. So he really messes with the timing of things, which I think is sort of a fantastic, fun thing to do.
I love how meta that is. Like, he's controlling the players, not the actual characters.
Yeah, for sure.
So for Shadow of the Bat, how about the villains that are in that? I mean, obviously Joker, since he's on the cover, that would be implied. Yep.
So essentially all your big names are in there. We've got Joker, Scarecrow, Two-Face, Penguin, Riddler, Catwoman, who is also playable as a hero. There's Harley, and I think that's all from... and Man-Bat.
Oh, yeah, of course, Man-Bat. The first introductory mission, you got to take him down on the terrain features. The terrain rules in the AUG system are so impressive, and people look at the characters and don't see all the little lines. Like, the first fight is on a skyscraper where he can just buffet you off the edge and you just plummet to your death.
Yeah, bottomless terrain is a real pain. And like the turtles, if they get thrown into a battle where there's bottomless terrain, because they don't have bottomless terrain in their game, they're getting a bit of strife. So they need to use either some ally cards from the Batman game, or make sure they team up with Batman or another character with gadgets so they can swoop in and save them if they fall off the balcony.
And for Two-Face, he actually has his coin, right?
Correct. So I actually just flipped my coin, an imaginary coin then. Almost everything he does relates to his coin and the duality, and that you can imagine that would. So usually when he starts his turn, he'll flip the coin and he'll get a boost or he'll do a certain reaction depending on that. That goes for both competitive and cooperative.
And Joker has a really crazy effect that he can affect like the bystanders and everything with like the laughing gas. What's it called?
Yeah, Smilex.
Yes.
Smilex gas, yeah. So Joker, he's really nasty. Smilex gas is essentially kills bystanders, but nobody dies in Batman the Animated Series. But it renders them permanently smiling. So if they spend one round in an early stage, so they're starting to giggle, and then if they're not cured by the next round when it's in their late stage, the hero actually just lose the scenario. So it's essentially the person succumbs to the Smilex and they're just smiling.
So the Batman game is actually timed really well too, because the animated series has seen such a revival with the new comic series, and the new Batman movie has drawn so much of its inspiration from the animated series. So next year, when will this be arriving in retail stores?
I believe that it's in the first quarter of 2021, next year.
Okay. So let's talk a bit about how TMNT is based on episodes of the comics, and Batman's campaigns are centered around
episodes of the animated series. So they're actually taken directly from the series. So we've used the title cards from the original show with that fantastic art and really tried to emulate exactly what had happened in each episode. We've brought up Man-Bat before. The first episode, which is sort of like your tutorial as well, is called On Leather Wings, which is the famous first episode. The Joker scenario is Joker's Favor, which is where Charlie, an unbeknownst road rager driving down the street, shakes his fist at the wrong car, which happens to be Joker, and then Joker pulls him over and says, one day you're going to owe me a favor, and then that favor is to open a door for him. And then we play out that scenario where you have to go in and rescue a bunch of people, and then at the end Charlie's there holding a bomb and you have to try and defuse it.
And that's the episode that you can actually play online, right? If you're interested in trying it out?
Correct. So yeah, it's on Tabletopia and it's on Tabletop Simulator, I believe.
So let's take a look at some of your favorite sculpts from these boxes.
Cool, yeah, I can do that. Let me share my screen again. I'm just going to scroll through a couple of these. And
Batman underwent significant redesign, right? To be more dynamic.
Yeah, he lacked a little bit of bulk as well compared to the other figures and the show. We had some feedback from the community and we made fixes on those. And there's Batgirl.
She has a really cool power where she can use her gadgets more than the regular person, right?
Correct, yeah. She has ingenuity. So if you take that card, you get to take a complete set of gadget cards with you. So you have the opportunity to have everything at your disposal. That was the Riddler. The Joker, I love the Joker sculpt. The smile it's so Mark Hamill, the voice of the Joker as well. Scarecrow, probably my favorite villain in the game as well. He's fantastic. He puts fear gas onto both the heroes and onto the bystanders. And then if a bystander is affected by fear gas, they become a villain as well. Because they fear you,
oh, wow.
They attack you. But because Batman doesn't hurt innocent people, you can't actually hit them back. You have to inoculate them. So you have to try and rescue them while they're wailing on you. And there's the giant Man-Bat sculpt. He's really cool. He takes up 4 spaces on the board instead of the 1. Commissioner Gordon.
One of my favorites. He's such a unique play style because he controls the GCPD or Bullock and Montoya, right?
Correct. So he has two supporters, and he commands them around the board. He can substitute them for Bullock or Montoya as well. Two-Face, I think the Two-Face sculpt came out really cool. I'm excited to see how people paint him, whether they give him the traditional blue tealy face, or some comic people might go with a green sort of a look or a purple look. It'd be really cool to see what happens. Oh, and we're back to the...
So for additional resources on Batman, Shadow of the Bat, and Arkham Asylum, there's Learn to Play Presents, Man vs. Meeple. We have a full crossover gameplay from our PAX East demos over on our YouTube channel. And John Gets Games did both a tutorial of how to play and an extended playthrough if you'd like to get to know the boxes better. So if you can order them now over with Kurt in our text channel, and they're be delivered in Q1 of 2020, right, Pete?
That's what I believe, yes.
So we've covered the cross-compatibility quite a bit, and our community's creativity is so important to us, as you've seen from us sharing their paint jobs. We've also created a virtual homebrewers kit, so your community will be able to identify their favorite issues of the comics, TV shows, and make their own scenarios. So let's get into future steps. Pete, let's tease them with some of the good content.
So just before we move on from the homebrewers kit, there is already people have started doing that, and the feedback's been wonderful. Like the people they've realized that there's some episodes from the Batman series that we haven't tackled, and they are desperate to put that into the game. So they've taken the Turtles homebrewers kit, and they're starting to construct them in that just already, because it's really cool and inspiring to see people really taking it and running with it.
Absolutely.
But now on to future things. The next part of the adventure system is going to be a Turtles expansion called Mutanimals, which is a ragtag group of mutants which they're fighting for equality, and they're up against the man. I'll share my screen again, and I've got some little bits and pieces to share. The box art. So in the middle is Old Hob. He's also featured in the other two boxes as well. He starts out as a villain. He turns into a hero in City Fall, and then he's the leader of his own group in Mutanimals. You don't get he isn't another figure, but you have an extra character card to freshen him up and give him some new abilities based on his current version. That same goes for Slash next to him, the giant turtle. So the other new characters are Herman the Hermit Crab at the bottom, Sally Pride, and Ray, the Manta Ray. There's Seymour Guts. He's the Mutagen Man, just next to Ray. Then Mondo Gecko is skateboarding over the top of Ray.
The best for last.
The best for last, Pigeon Pete. He's flying up above Flash. And Pigeon Pete's he's essentially the Deadpool-esque sort of character of the Turtle universe. He's fourth wall breaking and hilarious.
He'll also follow you through the rule book with little quips and tips, right?
100%. He's a resident board game champion. He's known in game as beating everybody at all the board games. So there's one character that actually table flipped while playing a game of checkers against Pete. It was very funny. So yeah, we wanted to put him into the rule book as the person that's teaching the rules.
And you've been sharing quite a bit of playtest information for that too, right? Like Mondo?
Yeah, so Mondo Gecko is probably the most requested Mutanimal figure coming. I've got some sculpt here for him. So Mondo was originally from the Archie comic book series. He was in the TV show. He was an action figure. He's very, very, very popular. he's got some really cool abilities where he can use the grind ability, which was only very briefly used in the original Shadows of the Past, and then once again in the other Changes Constant and Cityfall. He really exploits it, and he can grind essentially over every token in the game. He can also suction cup and walk along walls. He can has an instant ability where if he gets attacked, he can essentially drop his tail and evade the attack just like a lizard would. He's got an invisibility, so he can camouflage and become not targetable as well. He's got a whole bunch of really cool abilities.
So does that suction cup thing work against the skyscraper terrain in Batman?
No, he can walk along blocking terrain. So blocking terrain is like solid walls. Bottomless terrain is just like you're in the middle of the air and you're
Gotcha.
You're
I'm just pondering
down.
my own power gaming at this point.
And I also have his character art, which I haven't shown off before. This is art by an artist by the name of Chris Vance. He's done an excellent job. Really brings Mondo to life.
So other than Mondo, you've also started sharing content for Herman, right?
Correct. So I've got the Kickstarter update where we shared a bunch of Herman bits and pieces. I'll scroll through. So here is the turn art for Herman. That was done by Tony Vargas. He's really captured the sort of that soldier, aggressive, ready to fire nature of Herman. And here's the actual sculpt itself without the base, of course. But
I can't wait to meet that.
He looks fantastic. He's going to be really, really cool to add all the different layers. And the one thing I think, especially with Herman, that I think people will get excited about is doing graffiti on the dumpster, because he's a hermit crab that lives inside a dumpster, which is kind of funny in itself. But I'm excited to see what sort of graffiti will be on everybody's dumpster.
And that leads into his hero power, doesn't it?
Yeah, so it's kind of hilarious. Friendly figures consider Herman to also be a dumpster. It sounds terrible. But the dumpsters are important in the Turtles game because you can use them to jump off buildings and negate fall damage. You can also hide behind them to prevent line of sight being drawn to you. You can also, if you're Mondo, you can skate along the edge of a dumpster, which means that Mondo can grind on the side of Herman if he wants to. There's a little extra play there, and they can also take cover to get defense boosts while next to Herman too. It essentially makes him like a moving dumpster that people can use to their advantage. It's moving terrain. It's really, really cool. The other thing that Herman does is there's an ability to go on the defensive. So if you get attacked, you can turn your action dice to your defense side. So when you do that, because defend is a passive ability, you're going to, if you haven't had your turn yet, you're going to give up your opportunity to make maybe attacks or movement because you've turned it to its defensive side. With Herman, when he does that, he turns it to his defend range side. So even though he goes on the defensive, he can still sneak out some little tricky shots with firepower, even though he's gone on the defensive. He's the only character that can do something like that.
We're keeping some of the content secret, right? But how many characters are in total in this box? So
going back to the picture, the box art. So essentially every character on this box will be represented in this art will be represented in the box. Slash and Old Hob will get character sheets, while everybody else will have a miniature and character sheets as well. Michelangelo, he is also an honorary member of the Mutanimals. We're also putting a special character sheet in there for him too. The other cool thing is, because the Mutanimals, they tend to sort of walk the line between good and bad, we're putting hero mode in there. We're putting, and both villain modes in there for all the Mutanimals. So
it's like a built-in villain upgrade pack.
Yes, essentially. So you can play the Turtles against the Mutanimals if you want, as bad guys, or you can play them as heroes against heroes in the skirmish mode, or you can play them against them in AI mode, or you can even make Mondo Gecko team up with Shredder. Not that it makes any sense, but they're your toy. It's your toy box. You decide the rules.
Do you want to talk a bit about events before we move on?
Yeah. So a new thing in Mutanimals will be an event deck. As you the event deck, it adds a whole bunch of new spice to the already existing initiatives card system that's used in cooperative mode. Sorry. Every time an event trigger comes up in your initiative cards, you draw an event card. And so those event cards could be good, they could be bad, they could be neutral, it could be just nothing happened. But for instance, it could be villain targeting maybe changes to the person with the least health for everybody, or maybe the villains are all going to regain some life, or maybe the heroes are going to regain some life, or maybe the bad guy minions might get some extra activations. It generally just mixes things up, so it's very unpredictable. It adds a really cool new dynamic. We've had all the play testers have said that's the only way that they would want to play now, because it added so much unknown and variety to the system.
So after Mutanimals, we haven't really talked about this a whole lot, but we would like to talk about it today. What's up next, Pete?
I'll just stop my screen share. So after that we're going back to Nickelodeon as well, but it's going to be into the world of Avatar. So we're looking to do 2 games in the same system, focusing on Avatar: The Last Airbender and The Legend of Korra. So they expand on the adventure system, adding some new elemental type attacks and elemental terrain, and setting things up in a way that you can put terrain down and then you can pick it up and you can move it and throw it and power up your attacks. If you're a firebender, pull fire up, throw it, all sorts of cool, crazy things. But yeah, that's next on the cards.
That's coming up in late 2021, right?
That's
for retail.
The plan.
And so we really just wanted to share a couple of testimonials from our playtesters, right, Pete?
Yep, that's the plan.
So we will let you guys go for a couple of minutes, and then we'll come back in to wrap things up.
What's going on? Jason Sohail here, and what I really like about the IDW's newest adventure universal gaming system is, well, not only, as you can see, I'm a huge Ninja Turtles fan. What the thing I really like about it is that the scenarios actually follow through, like the comics, and some of my favorite storylines, where it makes me actually live out some of the most exciting parts about the stories. And the best thing about it is, like, each scenario actually has a comic panel in it, and it just makes it more like I'm living through the comic. The other thing I really love about this new adventure system is the brand new co-op mode. In the co-op mode, you can actually have you and your 3 buddies team up and just go against the bad guys on a intuitive AI system, where none of you guys have to argue on who has to be the bad guy this time. And what's really great about it is that through the initiation deck, you can actually go through the game in a quick manner. And especially during this time when the pandemic is going on, where I haven't had a chance to actually game with some of my friends in a while, I was able to pick up some of these scenarios and play it solo. And so that way I get to, you know, try it out before my buddies get to, we all get to play together.
Hi, I'm Duncan, and I'm a new OGS player. I met a huge community, and they inspire homebrewing and adding different materials to make the games even more fun and diverse. So this inspired me to get back into Ninja Turtles. I was a fan as a kid, and then I realized that a lot of people paint their miniatures, and I got into painting miniatures. So I've just discovered so many little hobbies on top of getting into OGS. And Change is Constant is just so much fun. I've been playing it a ton, and I really like the system. It's really simple. I really like the cooperation of sharing dice, sharing abilities, working together. I love the storytelling. All the missions have an objective and a story behind it. And I just have fallen in love with this game.
Hi, my name is Travis Blair, and this is
Griffin Blair.
And this is
Jonas Blair.
And we've been playing the AUG system since it first came out, and just want to talk a little bit about what makes it so awesome. The first thing is really the IP. It's really cool to just be able to play with the Ninja Turtles and sort of be in this kind of really neat universe that pulls right from the comics. And then to know that IP like Batman and some other things down the road are going to come into play. It's really neat to be able to take the different characters and mix them together and have them play in each other's worlds. And just sort of cross over in ways that maybe you would play with action figures as a kid. Another thing that we really love about this game is the mission variety. All the missions have unique rules and they each feel kind of special. So when you play with them or you change out characters, it never feels the same twice. And even if you play with the same characters twice, things never go the same way because you never know what your dice are going to be or which cards you want to take in. One of our most favorite things, though, happens to be the high five moments, or what we like to call the high three moments. And those are moments that when, towards maybe a tight game near the end, you win based on one strategic move that somebody came up with, or a good dice roll, and you win the game by the skin of your teeth. We always make sure that we give a high three across the table. The next thing is the characters. I've loved Ninja Turtles since I was small, and these guys, you know, I've kind of passed that on to them, and they love them as well.
Definitely.
And so when you play with this game, the characters just feel so real to their counterparts, you know, from the comics, which have come up from, you know, the old comics and the old TV shows. You really can play as your favorite character and feel that that character's cards and their actions really do make you feel like you get to be that character. The other thing that I really appreciate about the AUG system is that it's really easy to learn, but there's so much depth. So like these guys, they started playing, you know, when it first came out, and they're now at the point that, you know, they can pull the game out, set it up, run it on their own. They even homebrewed some of their own missions. So while it's very easy to learn, it's super dynamic in that you get to always have your missions always turn out differently depending on which characters you take in. And things like that. There's so many things to say. So I'm going to throw it over to Jonas, I think, first.
Alright. So when Dad was talking about the characters, I really agree how it feels like when you were talking about it really feels like you can be the characters. For example, like let's say you're playing as Mikey. It really feels like you understand how he's really agile because you can move a lot as him. I love how every character is balanced out and has their own unique die symbols. The game is really awesome.
Yeah, and to bounce off of what he's saying, you know, you have these really cool cinematic moments in the game where, depending on the dice that you choose, it changes what you can do. So, you know, jump off a building, grind down a rail, kick a guy in the head, flip over this way, do a move. I mean, there's so much you can do that just leads to these really cool moments. And I think Griffin has something to add.
So I like how each character has their own strengths and weaknesses. It makes the game much better, so you're not like really good at everything, and once you really just learn the rules, you just can't really forget them because they're really simple.
Yeah, so there's a lot more to say that we probably forgot, but I don't want to take up too much of your time, but just this is a great system, and I look forward to playing all the iterations as they come out down the road. So thanks a lot.
All right. So thank you for hearing us out today. We wanted to cover a couple of last-minute details before sending you off to join Kurt in our text channel. You'll be able to ask Kurt for demo copies of these games if you want to introduce your community to them before you do your full stocking. And then Pete has a plan to offer something a little special for retailers. Pete, do you want to just tease that out a bit?
Yeah, we were looking at trying and organize some quarterly sort of like missions, printable missions, like a game night kit that you could get your customers that have purchased the game, or that you want to just, maybe they did get the Kickstarter version, but you want to get them into the store to come and look at other things as well. It's essentially new missions so they can come in regularly once a quarter to try something out new. And yeah, that's really it. It's just an exciting way to keep it fresh and not just make it printable on the internet, but make it so they come to you and they can come into the store, build that relationship, and get some new content.
Right on. So if you would all join us over in the text channel, Kurt has put together some amazing content for everything we've discussed here and some of our other upcoming games, including Lock and Key Shadow of Doubt for any of my fellow Joe Hill fans. You can share your questions there, and we might pop up later on in the event with a live Q&A. Follow us on social media at idwgames.com on just about everything. And if you would like to check out the community that Pete has done such a great job of building, it's the IDW Adventures Universal Game System group on Facebook. Thank you for your time, and we'll see you over on the Discord. Bye.
Thank you.